In the stillness of the forest, the hush was disturbed solely by the echo of footsteps moving through the trees, a forceful echoes as someone loudly demands to know the group's destination. At that moment, a pack of wild boars hurriedly climbed the hill, chased closely by a band of goblins. Without warning, a rope suddenly looped around one of the animal's legs, snapping tight and activating a hidden trap. Without warning, a massive net descended from above, covering the startled wild pigs before they could react. The trap functioned just as intended, leaving the boars suspended from a tree, unable to escape. The goblin group, realizing their scheme had worked, erupted into joyful celebration over their triumphant hunt. One of Nog's friends admired his cleverness, expressing appreciation for the inventive plan he came up with to catch the animals. Nog's chest swelled with pride as he explained that inventing gadgets like these was simply his specialty. One of his friends burst into laughter, teasing him about how many of his inventions usually fail to function properly. The boy with white hair tried to justify his actions, insisting that despite his mistakes, he was at least making progress by experimenting and learning from his failures. Nog's friends all acknowledge that, despite his setbacks, he stands out as the only one inventing original ideas, and they find that truly impressive.
Lately, I've had a strong addiction to watching manhwa and manga recap videos. Every single day, I find myself binging one after another, losing hours and days doing absolutely nothing productive. And honestly, it's getting out of hand. So, maybe we can make these viral videos too. I mean, look at the views, the growth, the community these creators are building. It looks simple, right? But that's a trap. You go down this endless rabbit hole spending money, losing sleep, hiring editors and writers from Fiverr and Upwork, and still feel like you've been robbed. Because don't forget how emotional the YouTube algorithm can be with making videos go viral. It's unpredictable, especially when the market's saturated, competition's relentless, and somehow other creators are dropping 10-hour videos daily while you're stuck trying to finish one. That's when I realized something had to change. So, I built the solution, the Webtoon Narrative Suite, a complete one-click system that handles everything from cropping, script narration, text-to-speech, image processing, and full video generation in one smooth process. Save money, reduce hours of work, and have a tool that only gives you straight results. Click on the link down below and experience it for yourself. And if you want even more tools to supercharge your YouTube recap journey, visit my Ko-Fi and Patreon pages where I drop weekly new tools designed to keep you ahead as AI continues to steal our jobs. So tap in now before you get left behind.
The young inventor beams with happiness, feeling deeply grateful to his friends for their constant encouragement and support. Yet hidden farther away among the trees, a single vivid blue eye carefully tracked each action the goblins made within the forest. Concealed within the dense shrubbery, a shadowy figure wearing a hood, their bow, silently aiming at the unsuspecting group. He carefully drew back his radiant arrow, confident that severing the rope would provide his next meal. The archer instantly releases an arrow made of pure energy, sending it streaking across the sky with astonishing velocity. Nog immediately recognizes the looming threat and urgently warns the others to be on guard against an unexpected assault. Without pausing to consider, he quickly pushes his friend aside, ensuring she is safe from the oncoming arrow. The energy projectile collided with the net's rope, causing a burst that ricocheted toward the other goblins, hitting them directly. Nog stood frozen, overwhelmed by the brutal truth of surviving as a goblin in such an unforgiving world. He quickly seized his friend's hand and hurriedly led her away, trying to escape just as the adventurers arrived. The companions who had been struck by the arrow dashed away in fear, desperately fleeing from the pursuing hunters. The girl with pink hair felt anxious about the fate of her companions, yet Nog assured her that rescuing them was impossible. The young inventor's eyes burned with resolve as he clenched his jaw, his mind racing to devise an immediate fix. He came to an abrupt halt and grabbed his companion's arm, leaving the other person confused by this unexpected gesture. Nog explained to her that rescuing the others was impossible, but he promised he would do everything he could to ensure they both escaped safely. He hurriedly attempted to activate one of his gadgets on his arm, but it started to break down. The wooden device suddenly splintered apart, unfolding with the delicate motion of a blooming flower, leaving the goblin staring in astonishment. His friend shouted that experimenting with inventions could wait for another time and grumbled about spending 3 weeks building it. One of the adventurers stumbled upon the pair and quickly signaled to his companions, excited to report that he had discovered additional goblins for their mission. The adventuring group immediately set out in pursuit, while fear gripped the girl as she worried that they might cut off her ears. Utterly consumed by fear, the two goblins sprint away, desperate to avoid the dreadful fate that awaits them. As Nog hurried along, they noticed a massive purple mushroom blocking their way and appeared to realize what it was. The sight of the mushroom inspired the young inventor, causing excitement to light up in his eyes as a new idea formed in his mind. Nog's sudden shout about their good fortune leaves his friend bewildered, especially as Nog leaps onto the mushroom. He grinned in triumph upon discovering a cloud mushroom, recognizing it as just what he needed for the moment. He immediately stomped down hard on the mushroom, determined determined to trigger its power as quickly as possible. The force of the collision makes the mushroom burst, sending a massive cloud of dust swirling around the adventurers and swallowing them up. The hunters, surprised by the sudden appearance of smoke, began to cough and look around in confusion, trying to figure out what had just occurred. As thick mushroom smoke drifted through the forest, the adventurers soon found themselves utterly disoriented and unable to find their way. As the dust finally cleared, one of the hunters noticed that the two goblins had slipped away unnoticed. As his friend urged him to go, a sudden light flared from the device strapped to his wrist. A young man gazed at the glowing holographic screen in front of him, frustration clear on his face as he realized he was just too short of what he needed. The other adventurer looked puzzled by his companion's behavior, silently thinking it was odd, and ultimately chose to leave for home on their own. At the same time, his friends reached the entrance to their village unharmed, prompting her to express a wave of relief. The inventor often heard her repeat that phrase, yet the girl insisted that this time had been especially dangerous. The scene shifts to a southern goblin village perched atop enormous mushrooms. Nog couldn't understand why adventurers targeted creatures like him, especially when it appeared their only goal was to collect their ears. The elders grew irritated by the question, silently questioning among themselves what might be causing the recent attacks. The young goblin received an unexpected slap from his friend, who was confused by the way he responded. He fixed his eyes ahead, quickly spotting an unusual occurrence unfolding right in the heart of the village. The boy with white hair notices a group of people assembling nearby and becomes curious about the source of the excitement. The pair of friends navigated through the bustling crowd, eager to discover the source of the commotion. On the stage, an elderly person addressed the audience, explaining that the adventure attacks were becoming more frequent and dangerous. A strong, well-built goblin walked up to the girl, expressing his sorrow over her brother's death, which left her in a state of disbelief. He goes on to explain that lost his life during the earlier attack that day. She becomes puzzled, mentioning that he died the previous week, but then accidentally confuses his name with someone else's. Nog observed that, with so many as 300 brothers, keeping track of who remained and who had left was an impossible task. The leader raised their voice, insisting that a plan was necessary to defend themselves, which sparked the inventor's interest. The elder revealed a new plan, deciding to deploy additional goblins in hopes of overpowering their foes through sheer numbers. Nog, however, did not support the plan and urgently called out to the leader, asking them to pause before making a decision. The village chief glanced over his shoulder, his expression filled with disdain, and demanded to know the purpose behind the young inventor's presence. The white-haired boy insisted that following this course of action would only lead to more members of the tribe being lost. The elder, unimpressed by his previous attempts, mocked his unsuccessful inventions and demanded that he propose a more effective solution. Nog's expression grew determined as he agreed to take on the task of presenting a stronger plan. He clarifies that, for the time being, they must adjust their hunting strategies in order to steer clear of adventurers. Looking ahead, the young man expresses that uncovering the motive behind their pursuit is essential for their future. The second creature was also identified as a goblin. They stare at the boy in disbelief, their faces a mix of astonishment and bewilderment at his outrageous suggestion. The leader of the tribe responded to the plan with a sharp click of his tongue, making it clear to everyone that he did not approve at all. The elderly goblin burst into boisterous laughter, clearly finding the idea utterly absurd and declaring it to be the most nonsensical suggestion he had ever encountered. Nog's companion is puzzled by the idea that goblins would make an effort to comprehend the ways of human adventurers. The color white-haired boy grew frustrated, insisting that other people's opinions about the situation were irrelevant to him. The elder insists that only sheer strength can handle these savages. The leader concluded his remarks by emphasizing that, in this world, nothing holds greater significance than power itself. Later that day, Nog stomped into his house, frustration boiling over as he lashed out with a kick at one of his failed inventions lying broken on the floor. He grumbled about the elder labeling him as foolish, all while the elder insisted on risking more of their group's lives to face inevitable danger. From the doorway, the inventor's friend observed him closely, worry etched across their face as they noticed the inventor's troubled emotions. The young man glanced at her, signaling that the moment to take action had arrived, yet confusion flickered in her eyes as she failed to grasp his intent. He unveils a massive wooden chest that glows with a brilliant golden light. Nog's eyes shone with resolve as he lifted the lid of the wooden chest stored inside his home. The moment the lid was lifted, a brilliant golden glow burst out from inside the enigmatic object. A cheerful expression spread across his face as he disclosed his intention to seize an adventurer and interrogate them. He explained that by presenting the situation like this, others would soon understand the reasons behind humans' strong dislike for goblins. The next morning, tranquility filled the goblin village as its inhabitants carried on with their usual daily activities. A sizable band of hunters departed through the main entrance, preparing themselves for yet another perilous journey. Meanwhile, at Nog's residence, the persistent noise of hammering filled the surrounding streets. The young inventor devoted long hours to his latest creation, his mind lingering on on the harsh judgments others had about his abilities. He channels all his anger into striking the metal, unable to bear being looked down on any longer. Following a long period of hard work and determination, the boy appears to have completed his newest project. He placed his hammer on the table and got ready to reveal what he had been working on so diligently. The goblin proudly shows a wooden cup he carefully crafted with his own hands. After preparing all the necessary items, he turns to his friend Gobble to check if she feels ready for the adventure ahead. The girl responds boldly, her voice ringing with assurance, making it clear that she is prepared to face any challenge ahead. The pair departed from the village, with Nag remarking that this moment presented an ideal opportunity to catch someone. In this world, the presence of numerous creatures is a common fact, and among them, goblins are included. Even though there were many of them, this group was recognized as one of the most fragile species living in the forest. Despite not being particularly powerful on their own, their overwhelming numbers more than compensate for it. Despite their differences, every creature in the forest faced a single, shared threat that put them all in danger. The humans posed a serious danger, relentlessly pursuing everyone with their powerful weapons and sturdy armor, showing no signs of compassion. For as far back as his memory reached, humans had constantly entered the forest, launching unending assaults against his kind. They relentlessly targeted anything that crossed their way, displaying an especially fierce animosity toward goblins. The individuals who chase after them refer to themselves as adventurers, possessing remarkable strength. Nog quietly questioned whether this never-ending pattern of struggle would ever reach a conclusion. The possibility lingered that they might endlessly eliminate one another without any clear explanation. A powerful burst of flames crashes into the ice statue, cutting it cleanly in two and reducing it to nothing. The seemingly endless and pointless fight causes him to become lost in contemplation. Without warning, the memory of his friend Gobble jolted him out of his intense contemplation. She repeated his name over and over, pulling him back from his thoughts. When he finally snapped out of it, he quickly said he was sorry. The inventor, appearing preoccupied, glanced down at the scattered tools at his feet, explaining that his mind had simply wondered aloud about their purpose in this place, noting that the real battle was happening deep within the heart of the forest. Nog expressed concern about the dangers of entering the center of the conflict, warning that the chances of survival were slim. The memory of the peril unsettled the girl, causing her to admit she had no desire to experience such a frightening situation once more. He explains that the most powerful individuals battle in the middle of the field, whereas those who are less strong remain along the edges, searching for monsters to hunt. He carefully inserted one of the fangs he had gathered into the slot on his metal gauntlet, his strategy already taking shape in his thoughts. The edge of the area often attracted less experienced adventurers, making it an ideal spot for those seeking easy targets to capture. His friend expressed admiration for his carefully crafted strategy, and together they stepped into the shadowy depths of the cave. The inventor, smiling, explained that the next step involved preparing 3 different traps. He held a net launcher, identical to the device he had previously used to trap the wild boars. The next trap was a concealed pit, its base lined with pointed stakes, ready to ensnare anyone who failed to notice it. At last, he revealed an enormous slingshot, cleverly set with a sparkling pink gem meant to attract his intended target. Gobble's eyes lit up with excitement as she admired his inventions, clearly impressed by how cool they were. She criticized the names, calling them terrible, and this disappointed Nog, who had put a lot of effort into coming up with them. Without warning, a young adventurer steps into the scene, drawn by a sound that caught their attention nearby. Concealed within the thick shrubs, the pair of goblins silently observed the young man approaching the initial snare. The boy continues on his way, unaware of his surroundings, and accidentally places his foot directly on the rope lying across the ground. Due to this action, the rope pulls snugly around his ankle, giving the impression that the strategy might succeed. Despite the tension, the worn rope gives way under the strain and breaks, failing to set off the intended trap. The adventurer glanced over his shoulder with a puzzled expression, as Nog and stood frozen in disbelief at the unexpected failure. The inventor stared in confusion, trying to figure out why the trap had failed, while the intended victim strolled away without a care. Nog emerged from his hiding place and moved beside the frayed rope, insisting that he had been certain he assembled it properly. The trap, to everyone's surprise, springs to life and crashes down onto the very person who built it. Gobble burst into laughter, proudly noting that his invention functioned exactly as intended. Nog, feeling frustrated beneath the net, demanded in a loud voice that she stop talking and assist him in escaping. After they concealed themselves once more, he confidently explained to her that the next trap would trigger immediately and was guaranteed to work without error. His friend wondered aloud whether the target simply had to stand in that spot, gesturing toward something resembling a stone. The object was meant to attract attention. It was a gleaming purple mineral that sparkled and drew curious eyes. Nog described the war as exceptionally rare and beautiful, suggesting that the returning adventurer would find it impossible to resist its allure. From afar, kept his gaze fixed on the young man, curiosity flickering in his mind as he speculated whether the bait lying on the ground had at last last caught the young man's attention. The young hunter, captivated by the shimmering light of the crystal, leaned in to examine it more closely. To Nog's astonishment, the adventurer pays no attention to the bait and walks past without hesitation, bursts out laughing, unable to contain himself, clearly amused by the other's choice in rocks, and internally acknowledges that his friend certainly has a keen eye for selecting them. The inventor stood bewildered, unable to figure out where his experiment had failed, while his friend remarked that even goblins wouldn't bother with such things. She suddenly thinks of using a small cloth goblin doll as her next lure. He found the idea strange, yet she went on to clarify that people enjoyed gathering different kinds of cloth. Nog pauses to consider, and soon understands that his friend's reasoning is completely sound. Now that the fresh bait had been set, the adventurer walked along the familiar route once more. The young man came to an abrupt halt, his senses heightened as a rustling sound emerged from the nearby bushes. Concealed from view, Nog muttered to himself, doubting that an ordinary scrap of fabric would catch anyone's attention. The hunter carefully lifted the doll, deciding it would be just right to help him finish his daily quest. The inventor stares in disbelief as rejoices, thrilled that their wild scheme has actually worked. Not wanting to lose another moment, he urgently called out to his friend, signaling that the moment had come to set their trap into motion. The young adventurer quickly understands that he has been caught in a trap, yet he discovers his chance to escape has already slipped away. Gobble swung her axe and severed the main rope, setting off the last trap's mechanism. As a result, multiple ropes launched rapidly and coiled tightly around the boy's body. Nog announced that it was his turn, then gripped the rope tightly and used all his strength to fasten it firmly around the target. The hunter was hoisted off the ground and started to whirl at a dizzying speed, leaving him unable to move at all. Nog quickly takes advantage of the moment and delivers a well-aimed strike, rendering his opponent unconscious. The boy attempts to explain that the creatures are goblins, but before he can finish, the inventor interrupts him and pulls the rope. With the adventurer now in their grasp, the pair could at last begin to unravel the complete truth. Gradually, the adventurer opens his eyes, confused and trying to recall what events led him to this moment. As he opened his eyes, he found himself gazing up at two goblins who hung above him, their faces twisted in baffled expressions. Approached him with a warm, welcoming attitude, but he had no understanding of what was happening around him. The young man becomes aware that ropes bind him tightly, suspending him above a deep pit filled with lethal, pointed stakes. Naga attempted to soothe the young hunter, assuring him that as long as he would remain unharmed. Despite these words, the young hunter's anger flared, outraged at being caught by those he believed were beneath him. The goblin duel cautions him that there are some questions they need to ask before proceeding. The inventor proceeds with his questioning, determined to uncover the answers he has long sought. He immediately addresses the issue, inquiring about the reasons behind humanity's strong aversion to his kind. The boy with white hair explains that people hunt them throughout the day, driven by the value of their teeth. Gobble interjected, pointing out that humans, too, collected the fabrics they utilized. She begins to recite a list of all the items the adventurers collect, making sure to mention that they start with the ears. After that, the girl with pink hair brings up that they collect the goblin's hair as well. The list went on, and she mentioned that humans had even taken their fingers. At last, she lets out a powerful scream, declaring with all her strength that those people also steal their teeth. Nog grew frustrated, insisting that he understood already because he was the one who had brought up the teeth in the first place. He wonders once more, questioning the adventurers about their refusal to allow his people a life of peace. The young man let out a dismissive scoff, clearly convinced that those around him could never comprehend his situation. In response, Nog issued a stern warning, implying that there would be no reason to keep the young man there if he continued acting that way. Upon hearing the goblin's bold warning, anger flared within the young hunter at the creature's unexpected nerve. The inventor began to rock the prisoner from side to side, attempting to frighten him with emotion. Nog grew increasingly frustrated with the adventurer's refusal to cooperate, deciding that the only option left was to bring the adventurer's journey to a fatal end. Even while suspended upside down, the prisoner mocks the small goblin's attempt to intimidate him. Displaying unwavering self-assurance, the young man faces the situation without a hint of fear. Without any warning, lifts her axe high, getting ready to slice through the rope that keeps the hunter restrained. The young man stared in disbelief at the sight of the blade, his confusion mirrored by Nog, who was equally baffled by his friend's sudden move. Without hesitation, the girl with pink hair swings her arm and brings all her power down on the rope. As a result, the rope broke, sending the adventurer plummeting toward the abyss, while Nog remained motionless in shock. The inventor, overcome with anguish, called out desperately for his friend while watching helplessly as the prisoner fell into the abyss. Fear the young man, his eyes filling with tears as memories of his life raced through his mind. Anger flashing in his eyes, the boy with white hair whirled around to face his companion, silently insisting on an answer. He yelled at her, demanding to know the reason she had released the rope, while quickly reminded him that he had instructed her to let go. The girl insisted on her innocence, explaining that he had even used a hand gesture to issue the order. Nog clarified that his intention had only been to intimidate the man enough to gain his compliance. The inventor inventor pointed out that no signal had ever been decided upon, leading to suddenly understand her error. She is overcome with panic and begins to scream in desperation, convinced that the young man's life has come to an end. Nog wastes no time in setting her straight, making it clear that he holds her solely responsible for everything that occurred. Both individuals gazed into the pit, their eyes widening in shock as a hand suddenly appeared, reaching up from among the sharp stakes below. Gobble, maintaining perfect composure, gently suggests that her friend might consider retrieving him from below. Nog felt a surge of anger at the girl's proposal, yet she remained firm, convinced that her idea was the correct course of action. The inventor, his expression resigned to his destiny, readies himself as the hunter comes to save him. Nog carefully descends into the deep chasm using a sturdy rope, urgently shouting up to, insisting that must hold tight to the rope no matter what happens. From her position above, his friend offered comforting words, assuring him that she would keep him safe from the trap below. A faint orb of light materialized near the base of the pit, drawing the boy's gaze toward its unexpected glow. A gentle glow gradually took shape, transforming into an adorable spectral being that floated up from among the stakes. The young inventor stared in disbelief, his mind racing as he tried to comprehend the strange object before him. Overwhelmed by fear, he attempts to push the small ghost away with his foot, urgently demanding that it leave at once. The creature glided straight through him, treating his presence as if it didn't matter at all, which sent him spiraling into panic. Afterward, the spirit of light fully merged with the young goblin, leaving him startled and afraid. The ghost fused with the boy, filling him with a strange, powerful energy that surged within. He shouted to his friend, trying to explain that something had entered his body, but she remained confused, unable to grasp what had just occurred. The inventor eventually climbs out of the pit alone, leaving the adventurer's body behind. Grew irritated, questioning what had caused the sudden change in the other person's behavior, especially since they hadn't managed to capture the prisoner. Blue flames flickering atop his head, Nog clarified that an unusual spirit had emerged from the hunter. A fresh vitality lights up his eyes, suggesting he has taken in a mysterious force. A holographic image suddenly materializes in front of him, displaying a greeting. Soon after, a message appeared on his screen, letting him know that he had gained access to the Accelerate skill at level 1. The small ghost materialized once more, letting him know about the new ability he had just gained. The creature inquired whether the player was willing to accept this extraordinary and potent power. Nog turned to his friend, wondering aloud if she could see the ghost. However, it appeared that he was the only one unable to perceive it. The spirit, wearing a gentle smile, reveals that the boy is unique in his ability to perceive its presence. Gobble felt utterly baffled by the way her friend was acting and wanted to know what he meant. She believed he was being haunted, insisting that it was a fitting consequence for his actions during the adventure. Nog could hardly contain his anger as he demanded to know why the spirit had selected him instead of his friend Gobble. He shifted his focus once more to the glowing holographic display, curiosity stirring within him as he tried to figure out what the strange object could be. Two illuminated buttons materialized on the display, offering a choice between accepting or rejecting the newly presented skill. The inventor reaches out toward the screen, yet his fingers glide right through the holographic image, leaving it completely unchanged. He wondered aloud whether was truly unable to see it, while looked at him suspiciously, asking herself if her friend might have injured his head when he fell into the pit. A sudden, unfamiliar sound echoed from deep within the forest, causing the boy to jump in surprise. At that moment, several adventurers arrived, explaining that they had come after hearing the distant cries of goblins. The young goblin's eyes shimmered with newfound power as he became acutely aware of the threat drawing near. Gobble became frantic, his voice rising in desperation as he alerted the others that additional hunters had discovered their location. The white-haired boy acted swiftly, seizing his friend's arm in a rush to help them both get away. Fueled by the spirit's energy surging inside him, he shouted out a desperate warning, urging everyone to escape immediately. The adventurer's leader directed his team to capture the pair of goblins. As the pair made their escape, one of the hunters unleashed an energy blast that narrowly missed them. Nog stared in disbelief at the overwhelming force of the attack, fear gripping him so tightly that an expletive escaped his lips. The adventurers relentlessly unleashed a barrage of shots while pursuing the pair through the dense forest. Nog called out to the group, urging them to separate, and hurled one of his bombs to distract their pursuers. However, a single hunter remains undeceived by the trap and keeps chasing after the inventor with unwavering determination. Nog dashed forward, grumbling about his daily showers and the persistent screen that refused to vanish. Nog grew increasingly annoyed with the spirit's constant chatter, raising his voice in frustration as he demanded silence, feeling overwhelmed by the sense that he was reaching his limit. He notices that the screen displays the word accelerate, which gives him a hint about its purpose. With no better options left, he chooses to tap the accept button, curious about the outcome. At that instant, a stream of blue energy emerged from the tiny ghost and permanently permanently merged into the young goblin's body. A notification appeared, indicating that he had gained the Accelerate skill at its first level. Trailing just a few steps behind, the adventurer unleashes a surge of flames, using a potent fire spell to defeat the goblin once and for all. A massive ball of fire hurtled in the boy's direction, filling him with fear as the attack approached. The spell detonates powerfully, sending a thick cloud of smoke and chaos spreading across the area. The hunter's shot goes astray, striking a tree instead of his intended target. The impact causes the tree to topple over, crashing down and obstructing the path ahead. As the passage threatened to be sealed, Nog shouted defiantly, refusing to accept defeat. He pushes himself to sprint quicker, while the fiery tree gradually collapses behind him. The inventor clenched his jaw and summoned every ounce of power in his legs, determined to increase his speed. He recalled his dream of restoring harmony and achieving greatness, aspiring to follow in the footsteps of the famed hero. A shimmering blue light enveloped his body, and he suddenly dashed forward at an astonishing pace. With his newfound power, he pushed himself to the limit, racing away from the collapsing tree with all his strength. The adventurer stared in disbelief, struggling to comprehend how such a simple goblin could possess the ability to use a skill. Refusing to give in, the hunter, a spell stronger than any used before. He launched a series of blazing fireballs, yet Nog evaded each one effortlessly, using his newly gained super speed. Blue energy surged throughout his body, enhancing his speed and sharpening his agility. With a sudden jolt, he slams his foot against the ground, bringing his wild dash to an abrupt halt. Nog abruptly came to a halt in the heart of the forest, a shimmering blue energy radiating all around him. He stared in disbelief at how quickly he had moved, questioning whether he had somehow managed to teleport. However, the small spirit suddenly shows up, prompting the inventor to blame it for what has happened. The creature nodded with a grin, revealing that he had used the Accelerate's ability. The boy with white hair quietly murmured the name of the skill to himself, his mind still struggling to grasp the events that had just unfolded. Far away, the adventurer continued his relentless pursuit, causing Nag to become frantic with fear as he noticed the figure drawing closer. He runs away, insisting that the being owes him an explanation, yet the creature insists it is not a ghost. Nog smirked, confident that another round of questioning would happen no matter what. Exhausted from being pursued, he hurried through the dense woods, determined to reach his village unharmed. He eventually arrives at his village's entrance, only to discover a horrifying sight awaiting him. The village had erupted into turmoil as tribe members hurriedly transported wounded goblins through the confusion. All around, goblins mourned the loss of their friends who had not made it through the devastating assault. Nog surveyed the widespread devastation, his expression shifting to one of deep concern and gravity. A towering goblin by the name of comes across him and inquires whether he is spotted nearby. The large man's eyes widened in astonishment as he spotted the young inventor alive, a wave of relief washing over him at the unexpected sight. Nog explained that his search for her had not been successful so far, while the small spirit hovered loyally at his side. A sudden sense of dread washed over the boy, and his expression shifted instantly to one of sheer panic. He dashed frantically through the village, his eyes scanning the chaotic scene as he searched for any sign of his friend. The inventor called out for Gobble throughout the area, searching high and low, but no matter where they looked, Gobble was nowhere to be found. Surrounded by a vast number of goblins, Nog feels overwhelmed and questions how he will ever locate his friend. At that moment, the spirit of light begins to whirl quickly around him, catching Nog off guard. The creature explained that he possessed the ability to use the Analyze skill, while the goblin grumbled about being frightened and having his thoughts invaded. The spirit smiled warmly, signaling that every thought running through the young inventor's mind was perfectly clear to it. Nog claimed that the creature had been tormenting him, but the being insisted its purpose was to assist him in his journey as a player. The boy with white hair considers whether he could use one of his abilities to locate her. Left without alternatives, he reluctantly chooses to follow the spirit's plan and carry it out as instructed. He focused his mind, summoning the skill, and a blue aura enveloped him as he concentrated deeply. The energy from his skill lit up his eyes with a fierce glow, and that power rippled outward, reaching every corner of the village. Thanks to his enhanced sight, he now noticed the glowing aura surrounding each goblin amidst the bustling crowd. He eventually notices her, recognizing by the unique hue of her aura that sets her apart from everyone else. A cheerful expression spread across his face as he hurried over to his friend, eager to check on her well-being. Upon hearing her name, spun around with a puzzled expression, clearly unsure about the situation unfolding around her. Relief and joy wash over her as she spots her friend alive, and tears begin to roll down her cheeks. Amidst the turmoil, the two friends spotted each other and hurried forward, eager to embrace after their long separation. The girl leaps toward him, wrapping her arms around him in a fierce embrace, her heart pounding with relief after fearing the adventurers might have captured him. Gobble, with tears streaming down their face, promises that such a separation will never happen to them again. The young inventor feels a mix of embarrassment from the unexpected embrace, but beneath that, a sense of joy and relief washes over them. He embraces her in return, and relief spreads across his face as he realizes she is unharmed. The small spirit spirit of light observed their joyful reunion, a look of contentment spreading across its face. That night, the pair made their way back to the inventor's home, seeking a place to sleep. Nog confronted the tiny spirit with intimidation, insisting that it reveal all the information it possessed about the current situation. Gobble stared at the scene in bewilderment, trying to make sense of what was happening and wondering aloud about the purpose behind the other person's actions. The inventor reveals that he is being haunted by the ghost from their adventure, and that this spirit played a role in ensuring his survival. His friend remains doubtful, convinced that the strange story is simply a result of him inhaling mushroom spores and imagining things. The spirit claims it possesses answers to every question Nog has about the system he acquired. Nog attempts to attack the apparition with his dagger, yet the weapon slips harmlessly through its form, leaving the spirit untouched. He began navigating through the system's interface, captivated by the unfamiliar details that appeared before him. The boy with white hair comes to the realization that both the screen and the spirit are parts of the system. He wonders aloud whether he is a system user, and if the creature's name is Pip, and the creature responds with affirmation. The inventor feels a sense of admiration as he notices how easily Pimp responds to every question he asks. Afterward, a display materializes in front of him, revealing detailed information about his level and various abilities. He realizes that by earning experience points, he can advance in level and become more skilled. A different display revealed that the abilities in his possession were analyze and accelerate, each ranked at the first level. The boy with white hair doubted the situation, finding it hard to believe and feeling wary. He was stunned when he noticed that his strength level was just 2 points, especially after seeing that his friend S was 12. Gobble's expression grew solemn as he observed the clear disparity in strength between the two goblin companions. Nog wondered aloud whether he had gained the adventure's stats, but Pip explained that the system had been reset. Having come to terms with his limitations, the inventor acknowledges his own weakness when measured against those around him. A flood of questions filled his thoughts as he wondered where the system had come from and why it existed. He questioned whether every human possesses this ability, suspecting it might be the source of their remarkable strength. Nog's mind drifts back to the moment when he questioned the adventurer about their deep hatred for goblins. Memories of the turmoil and suffering brought upon his village by the hunters remain vivid in his thoughts. The white-haired boy, jolted by surprise, suddenly became aware of his surroundings and understood that immediate action was necessary. He wears a resolute expression, realizing that he must uncover more information about all that has transpired. He rose to his feet, expressing his belief that the system had the potential to transform everything, leaving puzzled by his demeanor. The inventor firmly resolves to uncover the reasons behind the relentless actions of adventurers who remove them without hesitation. He is determined to figure out the nature of the system and discover how he might use it to alter what lies ahead. He tightened his fist and faced his friend, his expression showing that he had finally reached an important decision. The white-haired boy reveals that he has a wild plan to achieve what he desperately desires. He proceeded to unveil his daring scheme, proposing that they disguise themselves as adventurers in order to secretly join the group. Inside a cavern overflowing with glittering riches, the pair themselves for the perilous adventure that awaited them. Nog donned a suit of explorer's armor and concealed his features behind a mask made of bone. He secured the mask in place, the sound of it snapping signaling his readiness to start the infiltration mission. Questioned the boy's certainty, but the boy assured him that wearing masks would keep their identities hidden from everyone. She observes that goblins have a tendency to collect and stash various items, as shown by the gear they discovered. Nog insisted that this was the most effective disguise available to them, and remembered how their last effort had turned out. During a memory from the past, Gobble expressed her frustration, thinking the mage armor looked ridiculous and felt much too heavy for her. The inventor shouted at her, demanding that she quiet down and lift herself up so they could keep going. In the present, she explains that having weapons is necessary for them to become skilled fighters. The girl proudly displayed her enormous new gauntlets, clearly enjoying their feel and usefulness in battle. Naga stared in disbelief, wondering if she really intended to battle using nothing but the gauntlets she had just discovered. He considered which weapon would be most effective and recalled the technique that Pip had mentioned to him. He triggered the analyze skill, causing his eyes to shine with a blue light powered by the system. Now that his vision had changed, he was able to recognize the detailed statistics of every weapon lying amidst the treasure. However, a cautionary message pops up, informing him that he lacks the necessary strength to access the majority of them. The boy with white hair suddenly understands how powerless he currently feels, leaving him stunned by his own weakness. He lets out a disappointed sigh, realizing that, for the time being, the dagger is the only weapon he can rely on. The plain F-grade dagger stood out among the pile of gold, appearing to be the only weapon he could realistically choose. Forced by circumstance, the inventor reaches for the tiny weapon, gripping it tightly in his hands. He envisions himself as a mighty fighter wielding an enormous sword, but tears begin to fall as sorrow washes over him. Pip pointed out that he had to gain more experience before he could handle larger weapons, and insulted him by calling him weak. The creature claimed he could place the dagger into his inventory, a statement that left the boy puzzled. The spirit clarified that all he needed to do was touch the dagger and concentrate on the command to store it within the system. Nog decided to try out the new feature. As he activated it, a sudden burst of light filled the air, and the dagger instantly vanished from his grasp. He stared in disbelief as the weapon disappeared before his eyes, while Pip assured him that it had been added to his inventory. The creature explains that accessing the inventory is as simple as thinking of the command, which instantly causes a screen to materialize. The inventor's eyes lit up with excitement as he realized how valuable the system would be and how much it would assist him in his work. Noticed her friend acting unusually anxious and questioned internally what could be bothering him now. The girl with pink hair finds herself utterly baffled by the odd actions of her companion. Without warning, the inventor began gesturing with his hands in an unusual manner, leaving her completely baffled by his actions. He attempted to describe how the system worked to his friend, but she remained convinced that he had lost his mind. Gobble grew frustrated, insisting that honesty wasn't the issue. He simply had no desire to share what was happening with her. The pair suddenly noticed an unfamiliar voice echoing from within the forest, which immediately put them on edge. Nog noticed a familiar adventurer's voice echoing nearby, prompting him to dash over in curiosity, while his friend looked on and asked what had caught Nog's attention. Wearing a confident smile, he declared that they had become adventurous as well and should start behaving accordingly. Both of them crouched down behind a bush close by, carefully watching the events unfold from their concealed spot. Through the leafy cover, they spotted a band of hunters locked in battle with a pack of monsters. The group of adventurers found themselves completely encircled by a relentless horde of blue slimes, each one lunging forward with never-ending attacks. A hunter found himself puzzled by the sudden appearance of an unusually large number of slimes. Nog and Gobble observed the fight with focused eyes, their expressions suggesting they were carefully studying what was happening. The inventor employed his analytical abilities, hoping to uncover the reason behind the slime's strange behavior. He notices that one of the adventurers is smashing fruit, which is drawing the attention of the monsters. The squashed fruits were a treat that the slimes living in that forest adored. Nog noticed that the hunter's approach to gathering the fruit was incorrect, leading to them being encircled. The tiny slimes launched themselves at the adventurer's shield, determined to defend the fruits they cherished most. The large man attempts to protect himself, yet the overwhelming swarm of monsters proves to be more than he can handle. A slime launched a strong blow against the shield, putting the hunter in a difficult situation. The huntress with vibrant green hair and the young man whose hair was brown looked at each other, their eyes reflecting shared concern. Edward, the team's designated tank, became overwhelmed by fear and made a sudden choice to run away, leaving his companions behind. Desperation took hold of one of the adventurers, as they realized that escaping seemed impossible with the overwhelming number of slimes surrounding them. Naga's anger flared as he witnessed the adventurer fleeing and leaving his companions behind, unable to believe such an act of cowardice. He recalled the painful moment when survival forced him to abandon those who once stood by his side. Feeling the weight of sorrow, he clenches his dagger in his hand and resolves to take a significant course of action. Gobble observed her friend closely, sensing something different about him, and feeling a twinge of concern, she called out his name. She removes the inventor's mask and urgently instructs the others to leave the area without delay. A slime struck one of the courageous adventurers with a strong attack. As a result of the blow, Arias, the girl, coughed up blood and suffered severe injuries during the battle. Her healer companion, overwhelmed by fear, cried out her name in anguish as she collapsed helplessly to the floor. The healer searched for a chance to approach and tend to her wounds, but the slimes blocked every path, refusing to let her through. A horde of creatures closed in on the pair of adventurers, blocking every possible route and trapping them with no hope of getting away. A dark, enigmatic figure suddenly emerged, moving with such speed and precision that it effortlessly cut multiple slimes cleanly in two. The brown-haired girl stared in disbelief as an unexpected assault opened up a way forward. Nog and Gobble suddenly arrived, reassuring everyone not to be concerned, as they had come to offer their assistance. Thanks to the assistance from the pair of goblins, the chaos appeared to settle, bringing a sense of order to the scene. The inventor observed the abundance of slimes in the area, and his friend nodded in agreement with his assessment. Despite being sliced in two during the fight, one of the slimes rapidly reformed itself, showing impressive regenerative abilities. The monster's gelatinous body pulled itself back together, seamlessly regaining its original form, showing no sign that it had ever been disturbed. Nog clarifies that the only way to overcome their enemies is by destroying their cores, a method that Gobble finds revolting. As additional slimes started leaping down from the branches above, the battle became increasingly chaotic. The boy explains that the presence of the fruits continually attracts more slimes, winced and insisted that the adventurer had fractured her ribs, even though she clutched her knee in obvious discomfort. The healer examines the wound and determines that it is severe. However, she feels confident that her powers will be enough to mend it. She expressed her gratitude to the pair for assisting her, admitting her surprise at encountering two gnomes in this area. Nog and Gobble exchanged puzzled glances, uncertain why the adventurer had confused them with a different species. A slime emitted a taunting chuckle as it noticed the hunter's bewilderment. The inventor pretends to believe the story, explaining that they are actually gnome adventurers who plan to keep the slimes at bay. The pair of goblins steps forward, taking their place at the front to face the oncoming monsters. Nog attacked one of the slimes with his dagger, but the wound closed almost instantly, showing that the creature could heal just as fast as before. He questioned whether he had failed to strike the core once more, and irritation grew within him as the battle proved to be more challenging than he expected. A sudden inspiration flashes through his mind, and immediately a nearby slime begins to emit a soft, radiant light. The boy with white hair decided to use his analyze skill, hoping that this new approach would lead to better results. Assisted by the system, his eyes illuminated, allowing him to identify the monster's vulnerable point. A glowing mark formed at the very center of the slime, clearly indicating the precise spot he should attack. He targeted the creature's vulnerable point with exact aim, delivering a strike that eliminated the beast forever. A message appears announcing the slime's defeat, and Nog cheers, pleased that the strategy worked. He earns 5 experience points for winning, but the reason behind the reward puzzles him. Pimp clarifies that the amount of experience given changes based on which monster is defeated. The creature explains that by gaining more experience, he will be able to increase his level and become more powerful. As he remained preoccupied, a group of slimes launched a sudden, relentless assault on him, showing no mercy. Pip proposed that they continue their discussion once the battle had fully concluded. Gobble tightened her grip, determination flashing in her eyes as she herself to unleash her real power in the fight. She effortlessly wipes out multiple slimes in a single, forceful blow. Nog comes to the conclusion that targeting the core isn't necessary. Instead, she can simply overpower them with sheer strength. He admires his friend's strength, coming to understand that Pip had been completely serious about it. The inventor acknowledged the genuine power that possessed, feeling a slight sense of intimidation. A message popped up, indicating that he had taken damage and lost 30 hit points because of the attacks. He wondered aloud what would occur if his HP dropped to 0, and Pip responded with an explanation. The spirit declares that the goblin's fate is sealed, leaving the goblin stunned by this unexpected news. The healer grew uneasy as she observed Nog muttering to himself, all while he worked to treat her wounded companion. Gobble delivered a powerful blow to a slime using her gauntlets, making it clear through her actions that she meant business. Nog kept battling, steadily improving his skills, yet the sheer volume of monsters threatened to overtake him. A slime struck him directly on the head, causing him to feel disoriented from the impact. The creature taunted him by poking out its tongue, causing his anger to flare. The inventor lost his balance and nearly collapsed, but he quickly regained his footing, determined to continue the battle. The two goblins found themselves encircled on all sides, quickly coming to the grim conclusion that their odds of escape were slim. The brown-haired girl grew impatient, expressing her frustration over the healer's slow pace, especially since their task was nearly complete. The wounded adventurer pleaded with the group to leave him behind, believing it would give them a better chance to escape danger. Despite the challenges, the healer remains determined, assuring her companion that she will restore her health so they can both escape side by side. Nog fought on with determination, their energy fading as they struggled to find any remaining strategies for survival. The inventor ponders possible ways to rescue everyone and escape the perilous predicament. The relentless advance of the slime army heightened the tension with every passing moment. Exhausted and with no other choices left, Nog thinks about activating his accelerate skill once more in hopes of getting away. Out of nowhere, a shadowy traveler emerged and remarked that their show was actually quite impressive. With one swift motion of his enchanted blade, he wipes out every slime that had been closing in on the group. Nog's mask catches the fiery glow, shining brightly while he observes the devastating assault unfold. Pip feels a sense of admiration for the newcomer's remarkable strength, especially after witnessing how they managed to rescue everyone. Himself for battle, only to discover that the danger had already been taken care of. The adventurer with brown hair questions internally whether the arrival of the newcomer truly signals assistance. A series of alerts appeared on the young inventor system display, indicating that multiple slimes had been vanquished. Nog stood frozen in disbelief, his mind racing as he tried to imagine who possessed the power to wipe out every monster in the blink of an eye. A mysterious young man smiles warmly, revealing that he learned of their need for help from a little bird. The healer spotted Tyrose and, overcome with emotion, called out his name while tears welled up in her eyes. Clutching his blazing sword, he announces to the group of adventurers that he has arrived to rescue them. Tyro grinned with relief, thankful that he had arrived soon enough to stop something terrible from happening. He expressed his gratitude to the two gnomes for rescuing his friends and promised that he would repay their kindness someday. The timid tank expressed his regret over fleeing, admitting that he immediately felt sorry for his actions and hurried off to find Tyrose. The healer chastised him, pointing out that without the gnomes' help, none of them would have survived. She burned burned with anger over what he had done, thinking to herself that he was the most terrible tank she had ever encountered. Tyrose walked up to Nog and reached out his hand, signaling that he wanted to make a friendly introduction. The inventor can hardly believe his eyes when a human steps forward and extends a hand in greeting. Nog found himself at a loss for words, but before the silence could grow awkward, his friend Gobble eagerly moved ahead and cheerfully introduced herself. She extends her hand, too, inquiring whether they might receive a reward for helping out. The inventor chastised her for being impolite, yet the adventurer appeared unbothered by her behavior, appreciated her enthusiasm, and mentioned that he would offer them a reward if they visited the guild. The pair of goblins grew animated with anticipation as they prepared to explore a human village, an adventure neither had experienced before. Nog wasted no time in agreeing to join, so the team of adventurers set off together toward the town of. As they traveled, Arya expressed her hunger, prompting Tyro to reassure her that their destination was close. The inventor wonders how Tyrose managed to defeat so many slimes at once with his sword. He tried to use his skill to check the weapon's statistics, but the attempt was unsuccessful. Pip mentioned that his ability to perceive things wasn't advanced enough for him to notice the sword's finer features. Now expressed frustration, finding the system difficult to understand, while Pip explained that skills could be improved simply through practice. The boy comes to the conclusion that Tyrose must possess incredible strength, since he is unable to view Tyro's stats at all. He questioned whether he could ever attain the adventurer's remarkable strength. At last, the group reached their journey's end, the lively and expansive village known as. Nog and Gobble gaze in awe at the sprawling human city, marveling at its towering buildings and sophisticated design. Gobble found himself captivated by the stylish outfits on display and the friendly, persuasive shopkeepers who filled the bustling stores. The healer's frustration boiled over as she seized the timid tank by the ear, dragging him closer so she could chastise him for his lack of courage. Tyrose found humor in the predicament, acknowledging that the two were justified in their anger toward him. He expressed his gratitude to the gnomes once more before bidding them farewell, ready to attend to his own matters. The group decided to go their separate ways, allowing the two goblins to wander through the city independently. Naga watched in awe as the talented blacksmiths of the city crafted remarkable weapons with expert hands. His mind wanders, distracted by the tempting aroma of street food and the sight of vendors displaying their tasty treats. Tyro remarks on the group's energetic nature and assures everyone that the guild offers a generous supply of delicious food. The girl with pink hair struggled in her friend's hold, eager to chase after the food. The inventor reprimanded her, urging her not to cause embarrassment in front of their new acquaintances. The goblin duke gazed intently at an antique clock displayed behind the shop's glass, captivated by its intricate design. At that instant, Nog becomes acutely aware of the vast differences between human society and the customs of his home village. The healer observes his gaze lingering on the clock, then inquires whether the object appeals to him. She suggests purchasing the clock as a present, yet the goblin remains puzzled, unfamiliar with the object. The adventurer's eyes widened in surprise as a sudden realization struck. Gnomes had been the original creators of clocks. She considers it foolish to present a clock as a present to someone believed to be a gnome. Nog grew anxious and quickly fabricated a story, claiming there were plenty of clocks at home to hide the truth. The group kept moving forward as the healer promised herself to come up with a different present for everyone. The pair of goblins expressed their gratitude for her generosity and felt pleased by the adventurer's friendly demeanor. The inventor begins to wonder if the hunters might not be as terrible as he once believed. A deafening roar thundered through the street, sending shivers down spines as an enormous monster emerged in front of them. The enraged blue, furry creature sat confined within a cage, its furious outbursts sending waves of fear through everyone nearby. A man without a shirt attempted to subdue the creature by striking its head, but his efforts had little effect. Naga wondered about the reason behind the monsters being kept in cages, and Tyrose responded by giving an explanation. He explains that capturing certain uncommon creatures alive can lead to greater rewards. Before being sold, they are dispatched to the endless prison, where efforts are made to break their spirits. Nog paused to consider the new information, his mind turning it over carefully, while Tyro clarified that he was merely repeating what he had heard from others, urged him onward, prompting them both to trail behind the band of adventurers as they navigated the bustling city streets. A cheerful expression lit up the inventor's face as he appeared to relish his time among the people in the village. Finally, the group arrives at their destination, with Tyrose informing everyone that they have reached the guild. With a warm smile, he welcomes them inside, calling the place their cozy home. The two goblins gaze in awe at the magnificent splendor of the Red Crows Guild. The structure towers above them, its unfamiliar design leaving them in awe of its sheer size and intimidating presence. Upon entering the guild, the group observes a bustling hall crowded with adventurers from various backgrounds and species. A man with a noticeable scar above his eye welcomed Tyrose, expressing his relief that Tyrose had arrived on time, as he had worried he might be delayed. The young man with red hair offers an apology before presenting his two new companions to the master. He recounts how Nog and Gobble rescued his friends when they were attacked by a horde of slimes in the woods. The fixes a stern gaze on him, silently demanding an explanation for the tale he has just heard. Made a proper introduction between him and the pair of goblins, who responded with courteous greetings. The adventurer recalled the reward that had been promised, and the master signaled their willingness to assist. Nog spotted a group of people huddled together in one corner, curiosity sparking as he wondered about the source of the excitement. Seifo announces that the day has arrived for aspiring adventurers to take their entrance exam. An adventurer's rank, he explained, depended on how well a person performed during the test. Tyrose observes that the guild brings in a lot of fresh faces each year thanks to the annual exam. The two adventurers who had been rescued explained that they had performed poorly on the test, resulting in their low rank. Nog saw that this moment offered an ideal chance for him to finally achieve his goal, becoming a certified adventurer. As the master left to retrieve the gold, Nog requested an alternative reward for his assistance. Tyrose and fixed their intense, inquisitive gazes on him, both eager to find out his intentions. The two goblins embraced one another with excitement, while the inventor shared the desire that lay in his heart. He wonders whether they are allowed to join the upcoming adventure exam. Tyrose reacts with surprise to the sudden proposal, yet his expression shows he is weighing the idea. The guild master appeared skeptical about their request, yet showed openness to listening to what they had to offer. The young adventurer leaned close to Seifa and quietly shared a plan. Judging by Seifa's pleased expression, the idea was well received. The leader announces that, as a reward, a special exam will be given to them sooner than expected, and it will focus more on practical skills. The two goblins grew animated at the prospect of avoiding the usual red tape that came with a standard examination. The master reveals that the challenge requires participants to endure a full minute while facing the guild's most formidable warrior. He explains that anyone who manages to withstand the duel for a full minute will earn a spot in the guild. Nog, wearing a self-assured grin, agreed to take on the challenge, while Gobble appeared somewhat uneasy. A notification popped up on the system interface, presenting information about the latest challenge that would last exactly 60 seconds. The inventor's mind raced with curiosity about the possible rewards, and he began to speculate about the outcomes that might unfold if he managed to reach the next level. Keeping this goal in his thoughts, he decides to take on the challenge, wishing that it will help him grow stronger along the way. The pair of goblins rejoices at the opportunity to join the guild and finally pursue their dream of becoming true adventurers. His expression hardened as he himself for battle, causing the atmosphere to grow increasingly tense. At the heart of the guild, the pair take their places for the team challenge as the rest of the members look on. Flexed her fingers, determination flashing in her eyes, as she reminded herself that lasting one more minute on her feet would secure her victory. The declared that the 1-minute challenge between Tyrose and was about to begin. With a single motion of his hand, he gave the command to start the fight, capturing the full attention of the eager audience. Gobble lunged directly toward Tyrose, channeling every ounce of her power and quickness into the attack. The adventurer can hardly believe how quickly the tiny figure, who was thought to be a gnome, darts forward. The other adventurers looked on in awe, marveling at the gnome's unique abilities and silently admitting to themselves that they had never encountered anyone quite like him before. Pip watched the battle unfold, while Nob questioned whether it had somehow become more powerful. He recalled the moment he had evaluated her abilities and noticed that the results seemed inconsistent. The girl with pink hair sprang into the air, swinging her gauntlet in an attempt to deliver a strong blow to Tyrose. The adventurer swiftly avoided the attack and struck her with such force that she was sent soaring through the air. The force of the strike leaves a huge dent in the ground and sends a thick cloud of dust swirling into the air. The audience stared in disbelief at the strength behind her punch, their minds racing with curiosity about her diet. Tyrose cradled the tiny, unconscious girl in his arms before lowering her carefully onto the ground. He smiled, admiring her impressive strength and noting how skillfully she delivered a powerful punch. Nog hurried over to assist his friend, but the adventurer calmly gestured for him to stop, indicating that she was unharmed. With defeated, the inventor now had to confront the guild's most powerful member. The master revealed that Nog and Tyrose would face each other in the upcoming duel, causing the tension in the room to rise even higher. The inventor himself for the upcoming battle, while Pip offered words of encouragement, urging him to give it his all. He quickly notices that Tyro needed just 10 seconds to defeat his incredibly strong friend. The healer attends to needs, allowing the white-haired boy to concentrate fully on overcoming the challenge ahead. Nog's eyes burned with determination as he called upon his accelerate skill, hoping this burst of speed would secure him victory in the duel. At this command, the long-awaited duel between Nog and Tyrose truly commenced. With lightning-fast reflexes, the inventor dashed toward the adventurer, gripping his dagger tightly as he prepared to strike. He launches a straightforward assault, yet Tyrose effortlessly stops it, using only a single single hand. The young man with bright red hair halts the incoming blade at the last possible moment, narrowly sparing his face from harm. Nog retreated, swiftly circling his challenger in the arena without slowing down. He flashes a self-assured grin as he readies himself to launch another assault, moving faster than before. The crowd watches in awe as the little gnome moves with remarkable speed and fierce determination. Someone among the group realizes that Nog's intentions go beyond mere survival. He is determined to overcome Tyros. He launched a fierce strike at the adventurer, only to have his blow stopped by the blazing fire sword. The blow sends him reeling backward, and a surge of irritation rises within him as he realizes he still hasn't managed to strike his opponent. He questions in his mind why, despite possessing remarkable speed, he is still unable to land a hit on Tyros. The adventurer delivered a quick, precise kick that landed directly on his opponent, clearly demonstrating his dominance in the fight. The inventor starts to worry, questioning whether Tyros has already adjusted to match his speed. The young man with striking red hair seizes the other by the collar and effortlessly hoists him off the ground. Tyros gripped his opponent firmly, his eyes locking onto him with an intense and determined glare as the duel continued around them. He wondered what other surprises Nog might have, then launched a strong punch at him. The inventor is hurled a great distance and finds himself out of choices, desperately searching for any possible way to achieve victory. He wondered whether he had reached his limit when suddenly a system notification appeared in front of him. The message appears on the screen, praising him for mastering the Accelerate skill to the point where it has gained a level. A fresh surge of blue energy wraps around his form, making it clear that his strength has increased even more. Armed with the improved ability, the inventor's confidence grew, encouraging him to press on with a duel. Tyros observes the shift in the situation and realizes that this moment offers them the greatest opportunity for victory. The alert on his screen now reveals that his speed has been boosted by 200%. Having already stood up, felt uneasy as she noticed an unusual energy surrounding her friend. Nog believes that if he has hit his limit, the only option left is to push past it. He triggered his newly acquired ability, causing a surge of blue energy to surge around him and swallow him whole. Notices that the small gnome is hiding a secret advantage and braces himself for the upcoming assault. Harnessing his newfound speed, the inventor pressed his foot down with such intensity that fissures started to spread across the ground beneath him. The adventurer stared in disbelief, trying to comprehend how his speed had increased yet again. Nag surged ahead with astonishing swiftness, leaving Tyros struggling to match his rapid pace. The white-haired boy, wearing a look of self-assurance, unleashed the full extent of his newfound power in an attack. He whirls rapidly, striking out with his dagger in every direction, landing multiple hits from all angles. Tyros found himself questioning whether the gnome had been restraining his true abilities all along, and he couldn't help but feel impressed. The upgraded Level 2 Accelerant skill demonstrated significantly greater strength compared to its earlier form. Despite the increased speed, the adventurer successfully deflects every strike. Nog his form, producing several identical copies that launched coordinated assaults on Tyros from every possible angle. The young man with red hair skillfully protects himself, demonstrating impressive expertise. The inventor grows increasingly irritated as he repeatedly fails to overcome his opponent's defenses. Both his health and mana bars became visible, revealing that his energy was nearly depleted. Pip cautioned him that his remaining mana would allow him to use the skill just once more. Nog believed he had become quicker than ever and himself to unleash his ultimate move. He lunges ahead with full force, yet Tyros reacts just as quickly, launching a swift counterattack. The inventor found himself amazed, questioning the remarkable strength of his opponent, who managed to match his swift movements without faltering. The adventurer grinned with self-assurance as he brought forth the immense strength of his blazing sword. He acknowledged the gnome's impressive abilities and himself to approach the battle with greater determination. Tyros surged forward, surrounded by a blazing energy, causing the duel to escalate in both intensity and peril. The young man with striking red hair launches himself from above, channeling every ounce of his strength and energy into the assault. The inventor narrows their eyes in concentration, bracing for the impact and planning a quick response. The force of the adventure hits him so hard that he is sent flying backward by its impact. Nog is hurled through the air, suffering serious injuries as a result of his adversary's powerful blow. Upon witnessing her friend collapse helplessly to the ground, cried out his name in anguish. Tyros acknowledged his opponent's skill, praising the effort shown in the battle, and then himself to finish the duel decisively. The adventurer cannot hide their astonishment when they notice that the tiny gnome remains upright, completely unfazed. Despite his injuries and overwhelming fatigue, Nag remains determined and insists that he is capable of continuing. With considerable effort, he rises to his feet, making it clear through his actions that giving up is not an option for him in this battle. Pleaded with him to stop, hoping he would avoid further injury, but he ignored her desperate request. Tyrose admired the boy's unwavering resolve and inquired whether he remained awake and aware. The swiftly seized the adventurer's arm, bringing the fight to an abrupt halt. He announces that the battle has ended, holding up a timer displaying 1 minute and 10 seconds. After making the declaration, he revealed that Nog had succeeded in the test and officially earned the status of adventurer. Tyrose observed the gnome's unwavering resolve and acknowledged his triumph with words of praise. Gobble hurried over to assist her friend, while Nog clarified that Tyrose had struck using the flat part of the blade. The adventurer reached out once more, offering his hand in a gesture of congratulations to the inventor for his impressive display during the duel. He admired Nog's combat skills, noting that Nog showed real promise to grow into an exceptional adventurer. The boy with white hair beams with satisfaction after receiving praise, his chest swelling with pride over what he has accomplished. Tyrose greeted the pair with a warm smile as he ushered them into the Red Crows Guild. A notification from the system popped up, letting Nog know that his recent win had earned him a level up. He had finished the quest and received 100 experience points as his prize. Tyrose passed the adventure cards to him, while voiced her frustration that her card was gray instead of green. The adventurer suddenly becomes aware that they have no understanding of how the guild's ranking system works. He clarifies that the color of the card indicates both an adventurer's status and their strength. Nog possessed an F-rank green card, which ranked higher than gray card, the very lowest tier. Tyro revealed a ranking chart that listed grades from S at the top down to F, with U marking the absolute bottom tier. He explains that players have the opportunity to increase their rank by finishing tasks and collecting experience points. Felt a wave of sadness wash over her when she realized she was even less capable than her friend. Overwhelmed with despair, it seemed as though her spirit drifted away from her body. Tyro proposed that the group take on a few quests, believing it would help them raise their rank. Nog glances at the quest board and observes that the quests have been organized according to their rank. He couldn't believe his eyes when he discovered a quest requiring the hunting of goblins and the collection of 30 ears as evidence. Curious about the purpose behind such a strange request, the inventor decided to track down the quest's creator to uncover the reason. Gobble noticed a quest that promised a massive gold prize, and the sight of it filled him with excitement. S had announced an S-rank quest, promising a reward of 1 billion coins to anyone who could bring back the head of the legendary goblin hero. Nog, wearing a cheerful expression, chooses to begin with a simpler task and temporarily puts the quest aside. Tyrose volunteered to join the group on their initial quest, hoping his presence would help them begin their journey successfully. The healer soon arrived, gesturing for the pair to come closer, indicating there was something significant to discuss. She explained that, while watching the pair interact, she paid careful attention and spotted something unusual. Wearing a stern expression, she leveled an accusation at the pair, claiming they were imposters rather than true gnomes, causing the duo to break out in a nervous panic. Shocked into silence, the two could only stare, while the adventurer appeared oblivious to the confusion her remark had caused. Naga wondered aloud about the healer's words, prompting the healer to clarify her suspicions. She claims that gnomes are known for being ready for anything, yet they haven't brought a single potion along. The second adventurer reprimanded her companion for acting rudely and attempted to ease the rising tension. The pair feels insulted by the remark and insists that they are not beginners, but soon after they recognize their error. The healer let out a laugh and clarified that noobs referred to inexperienced adventurers, then extended a basket as an offering to them. The basket brimmed with vibrant potions, capturing the attention of the two goblins, who stared in awe at the generous present. She explains that the potions are a gesture of gratitude for the assistance they gave her before, and the group accepts the potions. Nog activated his analyze ability, attempting to uncover the contents hidden within the enigmatic bottles. The simple potion shimmered with an eerie light in his grasp as he himself to reveal the mysteries it held. He studied the potion's recipe and realized it could heal 20 of the drinker's hit points. A notification then appeared, explaining that the potion would recover 5 HP every second. The inventor marveled at the potion's effectiveness, yet a sense of disbelief washed over them when they discovered what had gone into making it. The second adventurer soon arrived, carrying multiple leather pouches intended as presents for the group. The leather pouch was capable of holding as much as 30 kilograms of belongings, making it extremely practical. The pair beams with happiness as they receive the gifts, expressing how soft and cozy the pouches feel to them. Tyrose explained that the healer was actually an alchemist who had carefully crafted the potions on her own. Nog and Gobble expressed their gratitude for the presents, while the adventurer blushed in slight embarrassment. The inventor reflects on the recently discovered recipe, and as he considers its possibilities, a spark of inspiration flashes in his mind. He considers whether the system might allow him to craft his own magical potions. The boy with white hair makes up his mind to question Pip about the matter when the two of them are by themselves. Tyrose extended an invitation to the two adventurers, offering them the chance to accompany him on their very first quest together. The healer watched her friend with concern, noticing that she was still in the process of healing from her wounds. Despite any concerns, the brown-haired girl assures everyone that she feels perfectly well and is eager to get started. She decides to prove her abilities to Nog and Gobble by smashing a rock apart. Now that the team was assembled, their next step was to select a quest that would mark the beginning of their journey. The group assembled before the quest board, ready to choose their initial assignment. Nog decided to take on a mission involving the hunting of wolves that had been preying on the livestock of nearby farmers. Tyrose wondered aloud about the inventor's choice of quest, causing the inventor to shift uncomfortably, a hint of anxiety showing on his face. He pretends to brush it off, remarking that the quest looks simple enough for a beginner, though secretly he's already thinking about a different strategy. The healer feels uncertain about the explanation he's been given, but chooses to remain silent and let the matter rest for the moment. After selecting their quest, the 5 adventurers ventured into the forest, prepared for the hunt ahead. As they traveled, Nag recalled that he had gained a new level, and Pip took the opportunity to describe how the system functioned. Every time he advanced a level, he received 3 points that he could assign to any of his attributes as he preferred. Nog realized the importance of allocating his points carefully, knowing that once assigned, he would not be able to retrieve them. He recalls that specific attributes are required in order to handle various kinds of equipment. The points could be used to improve specific abilities, making them more powerful than before. The inventor comes to understand that increased statistics have the power to affect both his thoughts and his behavior. He observes that advancing to the next level will require even more experience than before. The boy with white hair sensed mounting pressure, yet Pip offered reassurance by suggesting that growth could be achieved through different means. The creature went on to clarify that certain statistics could be enhanced through hard work and determination. Through rigorous training, he is able to boost his abilities even without relying on his level-up points. Pip cautions that increasing stats demand significantly more effort, and as the stat rises, the challenge grows even tougher. The spirit ridiculed the goblin for being weak and claimed there was a way to make him stronger in no time. Nog's expression turned stern as he grumbled about the little creature's increasing boldness. He came up with a different plan and chose to hold onto his points for the time being. The group soon comes across an enormous, well-built adventurer making his way back after a hunting expedition. He wields an enormous sword, his presence marked by the confidence and strength of a seasoned fighter. Tyrose welcomed him warmly, noting that he had returned from his mission sooner than expected. Nog felt a jolt of fear and surprise stir within him as he faced the commanding figure of the newcomer. The large man strode toward the group, his face lit up with satisfaction and a self-assured grin. A necklace fashioned from goblin teeth hangs around his neck, sending a chill of fear through the inventor. Wearing a cold, unsettling smile, the man confidently introduces himself as the most skilled goblin hunter within the entire guild. Nog is left utterly stunned and gripped by fear after witnessing his expression and hearing his words.